name is Anupam Pandey. I'm an advocate from Supreme Court of India, and I recently completed my Masters of Law from Queen Mary University of London, and I'm currently in London. I just wanted to raise a few questions which came to my mind. Maybe you consider me as a biased, or maybe you consider me because I belong to a certain caste or community, that you can have all the rights to take your presumption and assumptions. But I'm just sticking to the fact and to the nature of the bill which came to the recent amendment in the UGC Act, and the guidelines which has been issued by the UGC. So, considering whatever debate is going on around the country about the recent amendment, and this is basically raising a concern about that a particular caste and culture, means community, has been uh, excluded from the very guideline about making an equity committee and giving the equal rights to the people, protecting the equality among the students. So, first of all, if you just consider the debate around the country, let's forget about whatever are there in the act. Let's just stick to the fact. So, the first debate is going on. This is for the protection of the Alpsankyak, right? So, by definition, Alpsankyak, who is Alp in Sankhya, right? So, now if you look at the debate, if 80% are being discriminated by the 20% of the people, if I'm just making the fact clear, because this is what is being debated all over across the country. So if by this very fact, this very fact is very dangerous in nature. Why I'm saying so? Because if there are 85 people, suppose uh, 80 or 85, this number is being fluctuated, and there are 14 people, or sorry, 15 or 20 people on the other side. So can you just, by way of your thinking, can you just imagine, means even hypothetically it's not possible that a 20% people can occupy the 80 or 85% people. One thing, maybe you have your own assumption and your own interpretation, but by broad fact I'm making this statement. Now going by the uh, act, if the act gives very clear definitions, very clear guidelines about who is being protected and who is being not protected. So first thing, the SC, the STs, the OBCs, the Divyangs, the physically disabled people, and the women's, these are called the protected groups in the act, in the guidelines. And who is left? The upper, male upper caste, that is only being excluded. So, first question arises, is it not that an attempt is being made to isolate a particular group in toto? You are being isolating a particular group, especially upper male caste, by based on the assumption. Suppose one person is commenting on me that, hey, by making any kind of casteist or casteist comment on me and saying, you belong to so and so caste, you are very bad, or making an attempt to physically um, disrobe me, or any attempt of like uh, making me harming me physically. So that very act is why it is not being considered as an act of criminal done by a particular individual, and rather than making it as a community, as an act done by whole community, and discriminating the isolating the whole community based on that assumption, because one person has done that, so that whole community is being is being isolated and being discriminated, and whole 80 to 85% is being protected on the basis if you just look at the guidelines. Other debate what is being going on is that, so I will come to this point, that only one group of people is being isolated, and especially the upper male caste. So so another debate which is going on is that the 1,000 year ago such and such thing has been happened, so that is why it is their right become in today's world, when we are talking about the modernization, globalization, and AI and whatnot, that the people are being still discriminated. Maybe I'm not denying the fact. Maybe there are people, but I also belong to a particular community or caste because I born in that. It's nothing to do with me, but I born in that. So because I born in that, so I will be assumed since my birth that I am in a class who has discriminated 1,000 year ago. So this whole fact is raises a question that what is the timeline? Even the very tenet of the reservation says so that it is only for the protection of the people and not as a permanent tool to be used since endless time. Even if you talk about Baba Sahib Ambedkar, there has been a timeline which has been set by the Baba Sahib Ambedkar, right? So first thing is that what is the timeline? If 1,000 year ago something has happened, and if few people are doing even today, and few other communities people are doing today, so why this has not been categorized as an act of criminal, and that particular person is being charged under the criminal act, and why there is a requirement of special provision, and why above everything, why it is now being required to isolate a particular community, especially the upper male caste only, because humans are included, the disabled are included, SC, ST, OBCs are included. This whole includes the majority of the Indian population, right? Now the question comes, if you are isolating only a particular community, and this is very much specific from the guideline itself, that only upper male caste is being discriminated, being isolated. So if only upper caste male is being isolated, then now talk about the CA and NRC Act. This is very much important because a parallel needs to be drawn here, because if you talk about the one particular class has been isolated in this guideline, then in CA and RC only the major chunk of population is being considered, because those were being discriminated in the neighboring countries, right? That was what the basis of CA and RC. Now why? Now if why we cannot draw a parallel, then that the CA and RC only particular caste, only particular religion has been considered, and only one religion has not been considered. So that means that was right. If that was right, then this is right. If that was wrong, this is also wrong, right? So those who are debating in favor or not in favor, I don't mind. There are few things which needs to be clarified. First thing, the basis of reservation has to be clear. What was the tenet of the reservation, and based on what parameters the reservation should be given. Second thing, the population based caste based census, that what is the data and where is the data, first thing, and why it is not being in the public domain yet. If that has came into public, I think the broadly the picture should have been clear, that who should be given the population sorry reservation, and what should be the basis of the reservation. So I particularly was not in favor of even the 10% of EWS reservation. So because I believe that reservation in any form is wrong, in any form. Now my addendum to this statement is that only identified and need based reservation should be granted, but identification is important. Like the our previous Chief Justice of India said that because I became the Chief Justice of India, my children don't need reservation, which I believe very truthful statement. If I would have given, if any upper caste would have given the statement, this would have been considered as a statement from the luxury, means elite, maybe, I don't know. But this statement has been interpreted in a different way. Now, a particular community person who is coming from a particular community became the Chief Justice of India, making such a statement. I think this has to be discussed and this has to be taken into consideration by the policymakers, so that a clear and then based on equity. First thing, the definition of equity, I don't think so. The people who are making in the policy are not clear about it. Equity is the very fundamental thing. Equity cannot be biased. Equity should be just, and it takes into consideration the all the parameters. It should not be biased towards particular person, and it should not isolate a particular group of people. First thing. So I have given the example about CANRC. Now, if we are talking about in 1925 such and such happened in a particular village, 1000 years ago something something has happened, so you have all the right to isolate a particular community even today. Okay, so if that is the scene, then now the those who are now in favor of this guideline, because it is very strategically in favor of their agenda to the people who are in support, because it might be suits their ideology, or I don't know. But if that is the case, then why not 50, 60, or 70 years ago? What happened during the partition? What happened in 1950s during the era of Nehru and the Congress party? Why should not be discussed today when this government is making up policies? So that policy, why should not be compared with today's policy? So this is a very important question. Ki, if you are comparing 1000 years ago something something has happened, so why not 50, 60 years ago what has happened should be compared with this policy making, with the government who are making the policies today. And if the data is being compared with what was there in 50s, 60s, or 70s when the Nehruvian era was there, and what is the so-called this Modi government is doing, so that parallel should also be drawn. If if that is not right, because this government always talks about what happened in Congress, what happened 50 years ago, what happened 60 years ago, and you are very forcefully being critic about this government, then if that is not wrong, then 1000 years ago what happened and you are comparing for today, then that is also not right. So if in total we need to understand the reservation and the protection and upliftment of a particular people who are actually being discriminated and who needs the support to be at the mm, at an equal level, or to be given an opportunity to come up in the society to compete with the other people as well. I definitely think that those people need support, and reservation based on identified needy people is very much important. But just based on the presumption and based on what has happened in 1000 years ago, 2000 years ago, and making it parallel in today's time is absolutely not based on the principle of equity, and it is not justified, and it is basically we are digging uh, a graveyard for means means lingering this reservation issues, and I think this will only end up with the country where we are fighting with our own people, and we will definitely see a situation what happened in Bangladesh and what happened in neighboring countries, and this will only burn the country, and at the end we have nothing in our hand. So it's a very humble request that such policies must be thoughtfully and with the consensus of the people should be brought, and I hope that this government will reconsider the UGC guidelines and any such kind of unjust laws, because if you are isolating a particular community, it will be in all presumption will be considered as unjust. An equity based principle and policies must be brought, and I hope that government will understand this.